graphics.
You're saying no expense was spared. You used the best graphic artist possible.
Totally.
Well, shall I tell you how I'm celebrating?
Well, I saw your post. You're making a quilt. Oh, I see. Oh,
I am.
Are those Gaga cookies?
Yes, I'm having some Lady Gaga cookies.
Perfect.
And I'm having some coffee.
Yay.
So this is my own little party on the mountain.
Very nice.
There's everybody.
Yay.
So everyone, if you're new to the Zoom meeting, please use the Q&A. No, it was perfect.
Oh, that worked?
Now it's back. Yeah. And everybody, today's my birthday and tomorrow is Kat's birthday. So we are Pisces children.
Yes.
If you are new here, please use the Q&A version, which is at the bottom of your screen, not the chat. And that's how we know how to work. So thank you so much for joining us today.
The Karens are here.
We have a couple of moments. Yes, the Karens are here, and we're so glad to see both of you. Thank you so much for your birthday wishes.
Yes.
It's fun to see the repeaters.
Yeah.
Well, it's fun to see the newbies too, but it's really, really nice for you guys to be so dedicated to join us.
Gluttons for punishment.
You know, this is the 4th. Am I right? Yeah, this is the 4th. And we're doing 6. Yeah. And then we're actually doing 8 because at the end of the month, we're going to revisit for those of you that need time to catch up. And we'll do all of the topic discussions at the end of the book. So I answered that. So done. Thank you so much. And Diane, thank you so much for your birthday wishes. Youngsters. I love that's a good word I've heard before. I'm trying to make sure. So Kat, one of my birthday presents was this makes it difficult because one of my birthday presents was a beard grooming kit with a wooden brush and a wooden comb and very special oils and all of that. It was a whole thing. So, and then somebody else said, Ricky, keep your beard at least through St. Patty's Day so that you can look like a leprechaun, because I do.
So you've decided not to shave it today?
Yeah, I'm not going to shave it today. Well, and there's another problem. I was planning to do that as a Facebook Live event.
Okay.
And as you know, my Facebook public page has been hacked. Somebody else owns it. I can't get in and do anything. And I'm trying everything I can to get Facebook to work with me. I've reached out to official people that work at Facebook. I've gotten some replies, but I haven't gotten to the right person yet. So, Toy, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for the birthday wishes. Love you. Love you so much. You guys, Toy, T-O-I, is my special, wonderful, my oldest niece, great niece. No, niece, you're not a great niece. You're my oldest niece. And we call each other, I forget now. She's my niece-ter because she's more like a sister. And I can't remember what she calls me. Anyway, I was only Brunkle. There we go. Brunkle. Because I was 13 years old when she was born. And so we're pretty close in age. So I hope everybody's doing good. You guys, Jan, thank you so much. Thank you for being here today as well. I want you guys, I already told you last Monday that I want you to, boom, throw in some comments or questions about what you've just read. Annette, I see that your birthday is tomorrow. That's with Kat. You share a birthday with Kat. Please remember to use the Q&A and not the chat feature because I won't be seeing the chats as much. So please use the Q&A and that keeps us a little bit more in order. This is a webinar Zoom, so we don't see all of you. We only get to hear from you, but you get to see us. And so that's what we're doing today. Kat, you've got your Lizzy shirt on.
Yay.
I should have. I have this is my Glacier t-shirt from Glacier National Park, but I wanted to wear a plaid shirt today because I wear a lot of plaid, and I could have put a red Lizzy shirt on, but I didn't.
Boo.
So Kathy Winks, thank you so much for the birthday wishes. You guys, we want to have a great birthday, and our great birthday is going to be if you start making some questions over in the questions in A about the topic at hand, which is from Bumpy Landing through Deep Glen. And I'm trying to get to that. Let me do a select all. I want to leave this. I want to go over to mail. I'm going to do new mail thing. I'm going to tape it right there. And I'm going to scrunch it up a little bit. I'm trying to get to where I have everything that I need to see on the page.
Yeah, me too.
Back to this and go back to that. That doesn't help me, but this will. If I do that, I think I will.
Did you hit record?
I did hit record because your birthday message was there.
Oh.
And I wanted to get started early. So I did. Well, that is not helping me at all. So let me try this. Goodness gracious. Let's do this. Kat, if you have anything to fill while I am trying to get my outline on the screen, this is what comes with.
Well, what's everybody's favorite thing to do on their birthday? So mine is always go to lunch and window shop. That's my favorite thing to do.
Because you won't buy anything anymore because you'll just throw it away.
Oh, I just like to look at everything. You know, shopping though lately has not been very much fun because it's, I don't know, you can't try anything on because the dressing rooms are closed, and so it's kind of a bummer. But so for my birthday celebration, I'm just going to be having lunch with some girlfriends and some adult beverages in the afternoon, and relax by the pool. That sounds good to me.
By the pool, and Colorado is expecting a historic snowstorm that hasn't been seen since the year 1885.
Oh, are you going to get off the mountain before that happens?
The answer is maybe. That's what I've been planning to do, but the storm is more north and hitting Denver, and because Denver's Denver, they get the big news about it. The latest update here is I'm getting 2 to 4 inches.
Oh.
And that's not a problem for me on the mountain.
Yeah, no.
You guys, let's start with not butterfly surprised, a bumpy landing. So, so Lizzy is on the back of Greta with McDougal, and they have just left this magical tunnel of stars, and they're coming down through this colorful fog that keeps changing colors. And I think that's a little thing to kind of remember as the story moves on. There's a lot of shifting and changing colors in the book. But Greta explains that this is a rainbow cloud, and then they're going to visit Anza from above. They're not going to stop in the city. They're just going to fly it over. So this is the first time Lizzy is getting to actually see the place where she's going, because she's flown all night long. I would say that as they fly over the castle and they look down, there are some things there that are foreshadowing as well, that have yet to be revealed. So little secrets are being issued in little bites that I think this is a book, Kat, I would say this is a book that if you were to read it twice from start to finish, you would really catch these little things that are there that you have no clue when you first read about them. And for those of you that are avid readers, this would be a good book to read a couple of times. So Annette, thank you so much. We're glad to have you here. And Jan, you like Stargrass. The names, I had one of my readers, because Kat and I both had readers to kind of double check us near the end. One of my readers had commented on how much she loved all of the made up names. And Kat and I did spend a lot of time making up names. Some of them I would just spit out, and some of them she would just spit out. But not just like names of places like Fiddler's Cove or Deep Glen, but the names of things like the magic word Alama or Stargrass and the Book of Satins, which is the satinaries and the religious stuff. There's a lot of names in here, and one of my goals, I don't know when I'll reach it, is I want to go through the book and just see how many made up names we've got. We have made up the names of the week, the days of the week. We've made up, holiday special things. There's a lot of made up stuff in this book. And yeah, the stargrass is certainly one of those because it's an incense that we use, that the Illyrians use to offer up their prayers, and the little smoke pots that sit on their doors. So I'm back over here to Lizzy going over Anza, and then the landing. I'll let you talk about that because Kat, you were the one that first wrote the kind of the bones of the landing.
Yeah, I just thought it would be. I wanted to introduce more comedy. I just felt like everything up to the whole Lizzy at home and her interaction with her brothers was kind of comical and fun, and I wanted to bring that humor back into the story. And so I just thought maybe she's just really bad at something, and I didn't want these characters to be perfect. And so I like the fact that she's terrible at landing. So I just thought it was funny and fun.
Yeah. Well, and Greta has so many wonderful characteristics that the fact that she can't, it was landing on land that she doesn't do very well. She can land good on water, and they were trying to keep Lizzy out of the water, but obviously she ended up drenched. And this is where Lizzy meets all four of the geese actually, and McDougal is there, and they're all fawning over her. They're seeing their princess, and none of them have ever seen a princess. They don't come from royalty, so they are kind of like stunned. And then we learn about this place called Fiddler's Cove, and there's more made up words like the Tweedle Reeds. The Valendale Forest, the Valendale oak trees. And one of the lines that I jotted down to remind everybody is that whenever Lizzy sees the houses and sees those Valendale oak trees, they have craggy branches, looked like they had spindly arms of an old witch who was about to reach down and pluck the houses right out of the ground. So, and that is also in the illustration in the book. You see those Valentale oak trees kind of looming over the houses. So it was fun to kind of set up that scene. And then also in this chapter is the first time we see the explosion of Molly's feathers. Now, Kat, I'm going to let you address that because that, again, that was your thing. And that was another thing you said, please don't take it out of the story.
Yeah, again, I mean, just for me, just entertainment. I wanted more entertainment and just silliness to happen. And I just love the fact that she's a silly goose. She's just a silly goose. And I just kept thinking what would be just crazy when somebody just gets overworked and they just don't know what to do and something needs to explode. And so it was that simple. And I was like, oh my gosh, she needs to have exploding feathers.
And I hope people will pay attention to that as well, because it does come into play later in the story. And so while it's very comical here, and we have this goose who just can't shut her mouth, she has to just go, talk, can't shut up. And she gets excited and boom, the feather explodes. Lizzy doesn't realize anything other than, wow, somebody's feather just exploded. Right. And of course, McDougal thinks there's tragedy and he gets all calmed down. But then finally, Lizzy enters the house, and these were the tiny, tiny houses that she entered. Before we jump into the Toad Shrooms chapter, I want to say that, Kathy, it's great that you're reading the book for the second time and noticing so much more, because I think that's what makes it. And Karen, on the third time, that just warms my heart. It makes me feel that you really loved the story. Of course, you know where we're headed with all this now, and hopefully you're seeing all those similarities too. Karen says, is there any significance to the G names with Greta, Gertie, Gabby, and Molly? And that is on my notes. So Kat, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi, Beth.
Hi, Beth.
So, of course, we did kind of want to have the alliteration of the geese and the G's, and right. And Ricky and I happen to be huge Hamilton fans, the musical. So if you have seen the musical Hamilton, you'll know what we're talking about. And we just constantly were singing little blips and blurbs and while we were working. And one of them is the sisters, the three sisters, when they introduce themselves. There's Peggy, and she always comes out and goes, and Peggy. And
let's sing it. Angelica,
Eliza, and Peggy. And it's so cute. And it's so endearing. And so because Molly is so quirky and her exploding feathers, and I just wanted her to be an and Peggy. So she's and Molly. So
yeah. So in Hamilton, if you didn't pick up on it, the Angelica is heavenly and wonderful.
Yeah.
And the Eliza is fabulous.
Yes.
And then you get Aunt Peggy, like an afterthought. And Peggy.
Yeah.
So we have Gertie and Gabby and Greta and Molly. So that is a total nod to the musical Hamilton. Yeah. And you wouldn't know that if you weren't here with us today. So thanks for having a little visit. Absolutely, and then also in this chapter, McDougal comes to the door and we hear tap, tap, tap. And it's not knock on the door, it's tap, 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 which is another nod back to the tapping that was in the attic. The Truffles. So now we're trying to make up all sorts of things. And you saw in the previous series, we had the Rummy Ritas and we had the Hammer Downs and the Frisbees. Well, in this one, we've got the Truffles. And that's kind of, I think it's my thing. I think I just threw it out there.
Yeah.
I wanted it to rhyme with waffles because one of the big deals that we have in my family is waffle day. Now, it may not be once a week, but if we're having a Saturday thing or a Christmas morning thing, making waffles are a pretty big thing. And I decided on the Truffles, and then I decided to, put them like a donut, a flat donut with some filling inside of them. And so of course, Lizzy ends up biting into it and she thinks it's fabulous, but then she learns that there's bumbleberries and toad shrooms inside. And this almost makes her puke. So there's the Truffles, and the Truffles are a big deal in the whole kingdom of Allaire. They're kind of the breakfast thing to have. And they're also nourishing because you don't have to eat them fresh. They stay and they last, and they're going to be nourishment for Lizzy on her journey. I don't, gosh, what was it? This reminds me of when the Lord of the Rings, was it Limbus? They had a kind of food that would last a long time, and either Gandalf gave it to them, or I think of the elves. I haven't read the full book in a while, but there was a food that the travelers were able to have. I think that somewhere in my subconscious, I must have known that Lizzy needed to eat on the journey, and the Truffles came out as a result of that. This is also the chapter where Lizzy realizes, while she's having this wonderful experience, the fire's going, she's in warm clothes now, she looks around and she goes, wait a minute. This place is way bigger than it was when I saw it from the outside. There's a little Alice in Wonderland there. And I think those references are on purpose as well, because we established in chapter 1 that Lizzy loved Alice in Wonderland. So there's going to be imaginations there. Also, the Wizard of Oz, there's a lot of nods to the Wizard of Oz. Obviously, there's not nods to Harry Potter because that wasn't part of her world back then. But the flavor of magic does have a little bit of Harry Potter feel to it. And we're not making any apologies for that, because I think there's good devices in that, but because of Lizzy's, man, my upbringing, I mean, books like The Wizard of Oz or Alice in Wonderland, those were big things in my growing up childhood. So for Lizzy's imagination to have this, I'm big and I'm in a little house, is very Alice in Wonderland. But she also goes into this moment where she says, oh, okay, I'm dreaming. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to imagine the room I'm sleeping in. I'm going to imagine the quilt. So we get to bring the quilt back in here so that we restate some of the names. She opens her eyes and she's still there. This was difficult for Kat and I. This was one of the biggest puzzles. We had several puzzles, and we'll talk about them as we continue on the future stuff. But this was one of the biggest puzzles. Why didn't Lizzy just scream and say, take me home? I don't want to be here. I don't belong here. I don't want to be here. I'm not your princess. Take me home. And I remember the moment that I went, well, if she thinks she's dreaming and it's not a bad dream, then maybe she'll keep going through the story. And so that was a device that I put in, and that became a significant device for us to keep Lizzy moving forward. So that happened, and that was really, really important. This is also the chapter where Greta gets philosophical. And Kat, do you want to address that, where things that happen that can't be explained?
Yeah, she always kind of comes back in with a way to ease things and keep, and that's also another tool to keep things moving, I think, that we used. And I like that there's always, you always kind of know somebody in your life that centers you or brings you back to something by saying something very profound and simple. And it just keeps things in a perspective that makes it lighthearted or easier to keep going. And she does that often. And I love that. Things aren't always as they seem. Simple little phrase, but it just makes the mind shift so that you are looking at something differently.
She also, this is really important because Lizzy being a 10-year-old girl, we wanted this to be an empowerment story as well. And Greta says in this chapter, she says, I do know this, that if you think you can do something, then you can do it. And if you think you can't do something, most likely you can't. And then Greta explains a few things like going into the tiny house or flying on her back through whatever. And so and then Greta starting to say some things like, we have, there's been a problem in the kingdom. You are the princess, and Lizzy's like adamant, I'm not. And Greta starts telling her a few similarities, and it starts cracking the egg. Lizzy is starting to go, well, but there's lots of redheads, and then it's just, she's starting to doubt what she has known in Kansas, and just barely starts cracking to believe that something is real with her in this new kingdom. Before we go into the identified flying objects, and you guys, we need your comments. If you've been reading the book, ask some questions, look, just thumb through it and go, what about this? What about that? But Jan, the audio book was recorded last August. Kat is reading it. She did a spectacular job. And I now have my friend Josh, producer friend in St. Louis, editing, but he has to send me the files. We are on chapter 29. So I only have 11 chapters left. And I'm hoping that hopefully by the end of this month, I will have approved all of that. So the audio book will come out. I personally love audiobooks. I love to read, but my life is better if I can be in my sewing space, or if I'm driving down the road, I can get through a book, and it's like doing two things at once. When I'm actually reading, which I love to do, I'm obviously not working. I'm not on my computer working. I'm not making music. I'm not making quilts. I'm not doing those things. So audiobooks are for me. And yes, the audiobook is coming. The one that y'all might have seen, not audiobook, but the chapters that I read on YouTube, those were pre-final book. So there's things that have been added or deleted from those that are on YouTube, but the real audiobook is coming, and it will be here. Did Greta's mom transport someone earlier? So Suzanne, you'll have to go back and reread a little bit. In those early, there's the prelude and the interlude. Those two little tiny things hint at something. And in that, they are trying to go find the child. Now, I think by now we can safely say Lizzy is that child. But Lizzy's mom is Gertie. And Gertie is Flutterfield, Gertie Flutterfield. She was called before the High Mage Council, and she was asked, will you become a High Mage? Because we need a High Mage that can fly long distances. And she said, look, I'm already old, and my daughter has just finished all of the secondaries, and he was top of the class for the last 2 years. Maybe you should try to train her. And they knew it would take years to do this. The child, if you think about it, has just been lost, or whatever the case may be. Lizzy is now 10 years old. So it took some time for something to happen, and it wouldn't have been Gertie that flew to transport someone earlier. It would have been the daughter. And we know now that Greta is the one that knocked on the window and flew Lizzy. So hopefully that will answer a question for you. Thanks for your inside look at the backgrounds of the characters and places. It's enlightening. It makes me want to reread the entire book. I hope you do, Patty. I really do. Last year you did chapter readings. Yeah, and I did that. We stopped on purpose because we wanted to tease you to get the book to finish it. I will not be continuing reading those, but we will have the book from Kat. Absolutely. And Jan, I'm with you on that. All right, so I want to move to the next chapter, which is identified flying objects. Off Lizzy and Greta and McDougal go down the lake road, and they're going to go to the Fallentil Forest, and they're supposed to meet somebody that Lizzy doesn't quite know yet who that is. We do a little flashback, and we find out that they're getting a late start because they were not really predicting McDougal to be on this journey. Greta had gone to get Lizzy. McDougal ended up, and now they need some protection for him, so they make him a leaf cloak. They had already made Lizzy's leaf cloak, but they had to go into fast action to make a leaf cloak for camouflage for McDougal. Thankfully, he was small enough that they could do that relatively quickly. But this is also a chapter where, of course, she gets a homemade brush from Tweedlereed's to kind of fix her hair that's been all crazy. But also in this chapter, this is where Greta explains the days of the week, and Lizzy counts them, and she goes, 8 days a week? Now I know I'm dreaming, because of course the 8 days a week song is the #1 hit in the country that week at home in Kansas. And that's a fact. In Christmas week, 1964, 8 days a week was the #1 hit. So we use that. And then there's more dreaming, and we learn about Midwinterfest, because she says, well, if this is your feast day, I didn't see any decorations. And this is when we learn about Midwinterfest. And this was a fun thing to put together. Kat, you want to talk about the Mr. Boots and Twig-sickles and the baskets?
Yeah, it was really fun coming up with a holiday. And as you know, we all know every holiday has its traditions. So it was fun creating those traditions and trying to kind of keep them similar to Lizzy's world and what she sort of knew, but just the nature of holidays and celebrations and traditions, and what do you do, exchanging of gifts, or the smells and the sounds and the sights of a holiday. And it was fun coming up with stuff. And of course, Ricky came up with the crazy names because he's so good at that. But
yeah, I loved Christmas growing up, and I think Lizzy does too. And to keep the holiday theme running through the book,
Right.
That's why we created Midwinterfest as a parallel. The baby was born on Midwinterfest. Lizzy is born on Christmas Eve. There's these parallels that needed to keep happening. And so we created the holiday with Mr. Boots, who I absolutely adore. I would love to meet Mr. Boots face. The twigsicles that hang over the door. I love that the kids write their wishes on ribbons and the friendship baskets. All of those could be fun little traditions for a family, even in our world. Right. So that was really, really fun to do. And then when we return back to the lunch that they're having by the lake, this is when all hell breaks loose for the first time. They hear the screeching noises. They look up. Greta is saying, dive, take cover, hide, get under your cloaks. Don't move, don't breathe, don't make a sound. And thousands of grackles are flying overhead. They are a menace. They are in search of something. And once we finish that scene and they are able to now come back out from under their hiding, Lizzy says, she says, what was that? And Greta's response, which is the last line in that chapter, that, my dear princess, was trouble. And now we know there's more to this story. This is when it really starts ramping up. We don't have a lot of time, so I want to jump through the butterfly surprise and the deep glen really quick. Because they've got that late start and they're getting into the forest darker than usual. Suddenly Lizzy is frightened and Greta has to make the decision to make a lamp, a globe, a light. And she uses the term alama. She makes the light. And Lizzy, once again, just like she's dumbfounded that Greta has made this orb of light and says, you can't just click your heels and do that. And that's, again, whenever Greta says, princess, not everything is as it seems. And we continue to push that forward. This is also where we first encounter the will-o'-the-wisps, and then we meet Igri. Now, not everybody may know the name Igri, Kat, so I'm going to let you tell that story because we were sitting in that room right over there whenever this happened.
Yeah, I just love him. He's one of my favorite characters. So every time, it's amazing how even when you're creating a fantasy world, how things have to make sense. And it's more difficult than it seems. But Ricky and I would just toss ideas out to each other. And we were constantly saying, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you. And it just kept getting shorter and shorter. I agree. And it just turned into I agree. And I was like, I agree. Oh my gosh, that would be a great name for a character. So that's him.
Now, I think your little character was a character before we named him I agree.
Yeah.
And he was a little mouse of a character that was going to just show up, vomit into a cup, and then magic flowers appeared.
Yes.
And Kat insisted when I was rewriting this, that the only thing that she wanted was I agree to still be this crazy little character that spits in a cup. And at least I made it spit instead of vomit.
Yeah.
But he spits this gray ooze into the cup and it becomes these flowers that end up turning into butterflies when Lizzy blows on them. So more magic is starting to happen through all of this. And then she learns that these are going to be protected butterflies as she goes on. Then we descend into Deep Glen. We make it to Igri's house. He hops in to make some tea, comes back making tea way faster. The only thing I would say here, people, is that if you've not, if you read this chapter, I would just say go back and reread the bit about the portrait, because the portrait is a big thing. The first thing that Lizzy notices, though, is the poster that says Ice Angels. And that is the very first time in the book now that we have a reference to something we've already read. You had a whole situation with the brothers and learning them and meeting Oris and Ginevra, and they become the Ice Angels, the musical singing group. This is the first time we start putting those connections together. And so, yes, the Ice Angels brings a nod to that, but the 5 people that are in that portrait, I would go back and memorize that chapter. I mean, not chapter, that paragraph. I would memorize that paragraph because it really does play into the future of everything. And Lizzy learns as well, because Igri says, well, then she knows that we have the princess. And Lizzy wants to know, who is she? And that, of course, ends the chapter with a lot of mystery. So that's where we are, you guys. I'm going to give you your assignment for Monday. I will be in La Vita on Monday. Let me move this out of my way. Monday is chapters. Oh, so you're going to be reading 18 through 24. 18 through 24. You can stop at 24, and that will be good for our next time together when we meet. And today, our door prize, which is a Lizzy Albright magic wand, is going to go to number, Toy's already done the drawing for me, number 33. I just have to get over to my document and click on number 33 is Trudy Tess. Trudy Tess. Toy, if you could write that down for me somewhere, that would really be helpful. I don't want to forget that, so I can send Heather an email and we can find out what she wants. Scary part here, let's adopt this holiday. The magic is awesome. I love the twists and turns. You guys, I really love your being here. I think Kat and I, being really honest, we would love to hear you chime in with some more questions. I wish there were more curiosities, but we are giving you our background and the things that we love about the story. So thank you so much for joining us today. Happy birthday tomorrow, Kat.
Happy birthday today, Ricky.
Wish you all the best. And I'll have a good birthday. I'm going to be leaving very soon now, driving to Pueblo, Colorado to get my second COVID shot.
Yay.
And I'm working on a quilt today. So you guys, thanks so much for being a part of us. We enjoyed having you here today. We'll say God bless and we'll see you on Monday. Okay. Tell your friends.